Greetings, Pencrest biology students. Mr. Del Prado here, and in this unit we're going to talk a little bit about cell division. So we'll first talk about chromosomes, and then in another video we'll talk about mitosis, and then in our final video we'll talk about meiosis, which is how your sex cells or your gametes actually reproduce. Okay, so when we look at DNA inside the cell, we've actually already talked about this quite a bit in class. DNA is inside the nucleus of your cells, and for most of its life inside the cell, it exists as chromatin, which is that spaghetti or ramen noodles like DNA. Still, all the A's, T's, C's, and G's, but it's in that spaghetti-like form that's in the nucleus. When the cell starts to prepare to divide, that chromatin will condense into chromosomes. And the way it condenses into chromosomes is it essentially coils up on itself with the help of those little green yo-yos there. Those yo-yos are called histone proteins, and the DNA will actually coil up on those histone proteins to make it more condensed. So what you'll see in that bottom right-hand corner of that slide is you'll actually see a picture of a chromosome, and if it looks fuzzy to you, it is. It's because those are some of the individual strands of chromatin that are kind of sticking out from the chromosome, but that is your DNA all coiled up inside your cells, and there's a little protein button in the center there. It's called a centromere, and that holds the two chromatids together. In terms of the number of chromosomes in human beings, we have 46 total chromosomes in our cells, or 23 pairs. So if you look at the picture in front of you right now, you can see that there's actually 22 pairs of autosomes. Those are the sex chromosomes that do not determine your gender. And then there are two sex chromosomes. If you are XY, which is what we see right in front of us, that means you would be a male. If you have two X chromosomes, XX, you would be a female. It's important to get the terminology down for this because scientists will talk about chromosomes in different ways. Sometimes they talk about chromosome pairs. When they talk about chromosome pairs, they mean how many couples are there. There's actually 23 couples of chromosomes, 22 couples of autosomes. What it also means is in terms of total number of chromosomes, you have 44 autosomes, but in total you have 46 chromosomes, including the sex chromosomes. So I hope that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, take a look at the picture in front of you, and I think you can make some sense of that. If you look at that picture, you'll see that the chromosomes are arranged based on their size. And these are called homologous chromosomes. In homologous chromosomes, you essentially get a pair, one from mom and one from dad for each pair of chromosomes. And you can see that they made these chromosomes different colors. And the reason that they did that is homologous chromosomes carry genes for the same traits. So let's say this is a chromosome that you got from your mother. This is a chromosome that you got from your father. Let's say that this is a gene for eye color on your mom, gene for eye color for your dad. Okay? They are homologous chromosomes. I'm not suggesting that your mother and father have the same color eyes, but I am suggesting that they both have genes for eye color at the same place on a chromosome. Now I'm making this up for chromosome number 1. The gene for eye color is not actually on pair number 1, but I think it was a nice easy way for you to recognize. So if we make up another thing like hair color, maybe we go over to chromosome number 5 and we say, okay, dad has the gene for brown hair, mom has the gene for blonde hair. Now those genes will interact, and we'll talk about dominant recessive genes when we actually talk about genetics in this class. You'll also hear the words alleles. Alleles are also just alternate forms of genes. So you have an allele here for hair color, you have an allele here for hair color. Okay, and those are the chromosomes. Homologous chromosomes are pairs of chromosomes. You get one chromosome from mom, one chromosome from dad. That gives you a pair, and they have genes for the same traits on them. What genes are on the chromosomes? We'll spend some of this unit talking about that. Here's another picture of this is called a karyotype. It's a map of chromosomes. The question at the bottom says, what is this person's gender? Well, when I look at gender, I don't really care anything about the autosomes. That's chromosome pairs 1 through 22. What I do care about are these two sex chromosomes. I see an X chromosome. I see that little puny Y chromosome, which is really, really small. For guys, I see XY. I know that this would be the karyotype, or the map of chromosomes for a male. Now, in the bio department, we got a little silly because we wanted to emphasize a point about numbers of chromosomes in organisms. But this is kind of important. If you look, an elephant has 56, a rhinoceros 82. Look at that carp there, 104 chromosomes. Okay, a pineapple 50. As far as we know, I think this organism has the most chromosomes out of all living things on Earth. The adder's tongue fern has 1,200 chromosomes. Don't worry, we're not going to look at this whole thing, but a king cobra, that has 38 chromosomes. A shrimp, that has 92 chromosomes. The reason we made these funny slides for you is for you to recognize that the number of chromosomes does not mean that an organism is bigger. It doesn't mean that an organism is more complex. It is simply the number of chromosomes that an organism has evolved over the portion of its life. I don't think it's important for you to know the numbers of chromosomes of these things. We just wanted to show you that there really is not a pattern that ties in like complexity or size with the number of chromosomes for an organism. So when we look at these chromosomes, in our cells, we have 46 chromosomes. In almost all of the cells in our body, we have 46 chromosomes. Okay? These cells are said to be diploid, which means that you have 2 copies of each chromosome. Copy of chromosome number 1, 2 copies of chromosome number 2, 2 copies of chromosome number 3, just like you saw in that karyotype a little bit earlier. So they come in pairs, one from mom and one from your dad. These cells, because they have double the chromosomes, 2 copies, we call these diploid cells. And these are found in your somatic cells. Somatic sounds like a big fancy word, but all it means is it's all the cells in your body that aren't your sex cells, that aren't sperm cells or egg cells. Okay, so in a large percentage of the cells in your body, you have 2 copies of each chromosome. Your sex cells are different. Your sex cells only have 1 copy of each chromosome, and we'll talk more about why they only have 1 copy when we go through meiosis. They only have 1 copy of each chromosome, so your sex cells, instead of having 46 chromosomes, they only have 23 chromosomes. This is a great test question where we would throw a cell at you and ask you, hey, is this cell haploid or diploid? If it has 2 copies of each chromosome, it's said to be diploid. So I see 2 blue chromosomes, 2 orange chromosomes. Okay, this cell is diploid. You'll also see the term 2N, which is just referring to the number of copies of chromosomes. This cell over here is haploid. It only has 1 copy of each chromosome. Don't get caught up thinking like, no, wait, it has 2 chromosomes. I agree, but it has only 1 big blue one and it has 1 small orange one. So this cell would be haploid. Okay, you should definitely know the difference between a diploid cell and a haploid cell. Diploid cells have 2 copies of each chromosome. Haploid cells only have 1 copy of each chromosome. Diploid cells describe, a large percentage of the cells in your body. Haploid cells only describe your sex cells. In humans, the diploid number is 46. The haploid number is 23. So I hope that gets you at least thinking a little bit about chromosomes, about how DNA are packaged in chromosomes, and the number of chromosomes that we find in human beings. So that's it for now, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks for listening.